में मेरे ख्याल। हाँ
नहीं सर, मैं तो अकेला हूँ। ये किसी
अच्छा
और के साथ है।
अच्छा, बच्चों की आवाज आ रही है तो मैंने सोचा कि आपके साथ बच्चे बैठे हुए।
नहीं,
चलें बेटा, आप कौन बात कर रहे हैं?
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम बेटा। वालेकुम सलाम। आप कैसी हैं
सर
बेटी?
मोइमजादा बोल रहा हूँ।
कौन? जावेद?
मोइमजादा हो सर,
मुइमजादा?
मोइमजादा सर।
मुइमजादा,
हाँ, वो जूनियर।
हाँ हाँ बेटा बिल्कुल। और बेटा आप कौन बात कर रही हैं?
सर मैं हीरा बात कर रही हूँ कोहाट से।
अच्छा हीरा
जी
बेटा,
जी।
कैसी हैं आप?
बिल्कुल फिट सर, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह। सर मैंने डिविडेंड को डिफाइन करना था।
हाँ
जी जी। सर डिविडेंड की मेन डेफिनेशन तो ये है कि डिविडेंड इज द डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ
डिविडेंड
प्रॉफिट।
बेटा, डिविडेंड नहीं, डिविडेंड।
जी जी जी। डिविडेंड
डिविडेंड
इज बिल्कुल सर, हम लोग डिविडेंड भी बोल सकते हैं।
नहीं, डिविडेंड ना बोले फिर लोग कहेंगे कि इसको समझ नहीं आ रही या बोल नहीं सकती। डिविडेंड।
हाँ हाँ हाँ, ठीक 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 हो गया। डिविडेंड इज द डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ प्रॉफिट बाय अ कंपनी टू इट्स शेयर होल्डर्स और कस्टमर्स। मींस बैंकिंग सेक्टर में हम लोग जो डिविडेंड है वो डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करते हैं प्रॉफिट की सूरत में,
हाँ
और अपने कस्टमर्स को या इन्वेस्टर्स को जिन्होंने इन्वेस्ट किए हुए होते हैं
तो यही तो
एट द
बेटा मैं।
एंड ऑफ फिस्कल ईयर।
हाँ, एट द एंड ऑफ द फिस्कल ईयर। फिस्कल ईयर क्या होता है?
सर जो जून टू जुलाई टू जून में एंड होता है।
जून में एंड होता है, बिल्कुल एक साल का होता है, फिर दैट इज अ फिस्कल ईयर। दैट्स व्हाई वी डिवाइड, आई गिव यू द डेफिनेशन, सेड टू दैट यू फाइंड आउट द डेफिनेशन ऑफ द डिविडेंड व्हाइल वी वर डिस्कसिंग द कॉर्पोरेट प्रॉफिट। एंड व्हाट इज कॉर्पोरेट प्रॉफिट? इज बेसिकली द बिजनेसमैन। और बिजनेसमैन कहाँ है? तो वो मैंने इसीलिए आपको कहा कि बैंकिंग सेक्टर में भी आप देख सकती हैं, वहां पे मिल जाएगा
यस
बेटा।
सर।
ठीक है बेटा?
यस
अभी
सर।
और स्टूडेंट्स ने भी सुना होगा तो अच्छी बात है। So today we start up with the microeconomics theory now. And what we do is today I'm going to take up a new topic, and that topic is known as a theory of production. So far what I discussed was with you was the utility analysis and the indifference curve analysis, right? And that is not that difficult. But now today I'm going to do the theory of production. Theory of production mein basically what we do is we study about the stages of production, the marginal physical product, the average physical product, and so on and so forth, right? So in the theory of production, when we are discussing with a one variable input, variable mean a changeable input, one variable input. So the first thing is that we try to define the definition of a production function. What is a production function? हम कहते हैं ना कि F is a function, P is a function of factors of production, land, labor, capital, and organization. That is another word is a production function. So whenever we are going to discuss with deal with a production function, we basically deal with agriculture, because agriculture is a bit simpler case in order to explain or to understand the production, right? I'm not going fast, right? But I'll go slow now. Now, what is a production function? A production function for any commodity, underline any commodity, is an equation. It can be in a form of an equation, जैसे मैंने आपको अभी बता दिया. It can be in a form of a table or a graph. When we deal with a graph, that is, we try to formulate a table and we convert the table into x-axis, y-axis, and join the points and we get a graph. So a production function for any commodity is an equation, graph, table, which shows the maximum quantity of the commodity that can be produced per unit of time for each set of alternative inputs. Sentence is a bit long. I'll repeat it again. As I said before, production function can take the form of a equation, graph, or a table. And that graph and table, the basic function of the graph and table or the equation is that it basically shows or tells us that the maximum quantity of the commodity that can be produced per unit of time. Per unit of time is very important. for each of the set of alternative inputs. Input क्या होता है? Land, labor, capital and organization. Inputs when the best production techniques available are used. Am I clear so far? That is, that can be produced per unit of time for each of a set of alternative inputs when the best production technique available are used. That is what a production function is. Now we come to a simple example. And I said it is best or simple to understand agriculture sector by taking an example from agriculture sector. So I'll be dealing with the agriculture sector. A simple agricultural production function is obtained by using various alternative quantities of labor per unit of time to farm a fixed amount of land and recording the resulting alternative outputs of the commodity per unit of time. I'll repeat it again. If we say a production function is an equation, table, and a graph, and if we take up an example from the agriculture sector, then we are going to define what is an agriculture production function. A simple agricultural production function, excuse me, is obtained by using various alternative quantities of labor per unit of time. For what purpose labor is used? To farm a fixed amount of land and recording meaning and taking into consideration the resulting alternative outputs when you are going to use a labor on a particular farm or a particular piece of land, say 1 acre, 2 acre, 3 acre. So when you use a labor and other inputs, the best qualities of inputs, so what you get in return is the output. That's why we say alternative outputs of the commodity per unit of time. Now, for such as this cases, we take into consideration when we are going to discuss such cases, we are not dealing with the long run. We are basically dealing with the short run. So that is important to understand. If you do not want to write, don't write it, but try to understand that in this case, we are going to deal with the short run, not with the long run. Now, what is a long run and a short run? I'll be discussing it in more detail when we are going to deal with the firms. That is firms, etc., right? Now, in this case, the average product of labor, how do we denote agriculture product of labor? AP subscript L, small l. That is AP capital, average product, subscript L, small l means labor, is then defined, कैसे define होगा? As a total product, as a total product. Total product is being denoted by capital TP, average product of labor, by capital AP subscript L, and total product by capital TP, divided by the number of units of labor used. तो total product क्या होगा? जब आप average product को divide करते हैं by the number of units used. Or marginal product of labor, that is MP subscript L. MP stands for marginal product, L stands for labor. So what we say, the marginal product of labor is given by the change, because look, now we are coming to the marginal. Previously, I explained what is a margin. Marginal, it means basically the difference between the second and the first unit, the third and the second unit, the fourth and the third unit, and so on. So the marginal product of labor is given by the change in total product, TP, per unit change in quantity of labor used. Am I clear so far? I'll repeat again for you. Say the average product of labor is then defined as the total product divided by the number of units of labor used. The marginal product of labor is given by the change in total product per unit change in the quantity of labor used. How do we explain it now? I'm going to explain this with the help of an example. Now we make a table. Now in the table, the first three columns, that's column 1, column 2, column 3. Column 1 stands for land, column 2 stands for labor, column 3 stands for total product. Now suppose we are using 1 acre of land. Since land is fixed, that is land 1 unit throughout. So labor, that is the labor which is used on land to give something as an output. So the labor changes. Say on the first acre, no labor is used. On the second acre, 1 labor is used. On the third acre, 2 labors are used and so on. So in the first column, land is fixed 1 acre. In the second column, labor changes 1, 2, 3, 4 till onwards. आप जितना यूनिट पे आप डायग्राम टेबल में लेना चाहते हैं. And the total product, in other words, is, as I said, what is the total product? Total product means the output which we get, right? So the total product, we say 3, 8, 12. Now say the first acre of land is being cultivated and no labor is used. Now when no labor is used, the land is not cultivated. So your total product would be equal to 0. Now the second acre which you are going to take on which 1 labor is used, that labor is going to give you some output. And that output is known as the total product. And let's say that total product is 3, right? Now on the third case, 2 units of labors are used. And say when the 2 units of labor are used, the output which it gives or the total product which it gives is 8 units, right? And how did we define average product of labor? The average product of labor is defined as the total product divided by the number of unit of labor used. Now, in the first case, the total product is 3, as I gave you an example. 1 unit of labor was used, 1 acre of land was used. So the average product of labor would be equal to 3. Now, on the second case, where 1 acre of land is used, 2 labors are used, and I said that the total product was 8. So 8 divided by 2, you get 4. So it is 4 unit. Average product of labor is equal to 4. Now the marginal product is the change. So what we do is the first unit 0, the second average product of labor 3, the third was 4. So 3 minus 0 is equal to 3. Now first से कुछ भी नहीं था, तो इसीलिए हमने एक dash लगा दिया. It shows nothing. From the second, what we do is 3 minus 0. So we get 3. In the fourth case, 4 minus 3 and so on. In this way, you get the marginal product of labor. So the total product, the average product of labor, the marginal product of labor are, if plotted on the diagram, we see that marginal product of labor has been defined as a change in total product per unit of change in the quantity of labor used. Each value of the marginal product of labor has been recorded in the panel. panel, I'm going to explain the diagram to you. In the panel B, halfway between the quantities of labor. Why halfway between the quantities of labor? Now, when you plot on y-axis and x-axis, on y-axis you say total product, on x-axis you take up labor, right? On which is being used on the 1 acre. Now, when you plot this and join these points, you get a curve which shows us as an increasing trend to some extent, then remains constant, and then starts falling. I'll repeat again. Now, looking at the table which you have formulated now, you can formulate it further. As I explained, land 1, 1, 1, 1, labor 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Total product 3, 8, 12, and so on. Average product of labor and marginal product of labor. Make these two columns as per the definition given to you. Now, when you plot this table on the diagram, on y-axis you say total product, on x-axis you say labor, the labor which is used on the 1 acre of land. So you see that in the beginning, if you plot it, and if you join the points, it shows you an increasing trend. After some extent, then it becomes constant, and then it starts decreasing. Clear? Which means that this shows us the 3 stages of production, in other words. I'm coming to that. That is increasing return, constant return, and a decreasing return. Now, from this diagram, we try to plot average product of labor and a marginal product of labor. Average product of labor starts from 0, increases, and then slowly starts decreasing. Take the data from the table, then try to plot it from the total product labor, total product curve. Total product curve definition has been given to you. You will get average product of labor. Then we draw the marginal product of labor. Since the first unit is going to give you nothing, which means it is not going to start from 0, but it is going to start from somewhere else. And that somewhere else is second unit. Now, in the second unit, you see that the curve first shows you an increasing trend. Then it shows you a decreasing trend, which crosses the average product of labor from above, remains below, and then crosses your x-axis, which gives you the negative value of the marginal product of labor. Is it clear to you? I'll explain the diagram again, because on this basis of this diagram, I'm going to continue further. On y-axis, you take up the total product. On x-axis, you take up the labor. That is the labor which you use on that piece of acre of land. Taking the points, joining the points, you get a curve. That curve shows you an increasing trend in the beginning, remains constant for some time, then starts decreasing, which I said roughly. I'm going to go in detail further. That shows us the 3 stages of production. That is the 3 stages, the increasing stage, the constant stage, and the decreasing stage. From the total product curve, we draw the average product of labor. Now, average product of labor starts from the point of intersection of X and Y, that is point 0, shows you the increasing trend in the beginning, and then goes and starts falling at a very slow speed, a very slow trend toward the x-axis, while the marginal product of labor does not start from 0, because on the first acre of land, I said no labor is used. Now, when no labor is going to be used, it is going to give you 0 production. So the marginal product of labor from that would be equal to 0. It is going to start from the second unit. and it would be marked somewhere halfway between the two. That is 1 and 2, that is going to be 1.5 or something like that. So it is going to start from there, shows you an increasing trend, falls down toward x-axis, crosses the average product of labor from above, and then goes down, touches x-axis, which means 0, and then it goes down from x-axis, which shows you the negative marginal product of labor. So the shapes of the average product of labor and the marginal product of labor, as I discussed now, curves are determined by the shape of the corresponding total product curve, which I have explained 2 or 3 times. The average product of labor at any point on the total product of labor is given. Now, mark these words. The average product of labor at any point on the total product of labor curve is given by the slope between the 2 points, by any 2 points, right? By slope जब determine करते हैं तो वो 2 points हम लेते हैं of the line from the origin to the point on the total product curve. Origin से हम draw कर लेते हैं और जहां पे वो total product curve को touch करता है, ठीक है? The marginal product of labor curve also rises at first, as पहले मैंने आपको बता दिए. The marginal product of labor first increases. That is, it also rises at first, reaches maximum. Maximum को हो जाता है and then starts declining. The marginal product of labor becomes 0 when the total product is maximum and negative when the total product begins to decline. To repeat again, the marginal product of labor becomes 0 when the total product is maximum. Total product is maximum जब मैंने आपको बता दी जहां पे वो point of intersection आ जाता है average product curve में और marginal product curve में, and then declines, which means that the marginal product of labor becomes 0 when the total product is maximum and negative when the total product begins to decline. The falling, not the following, I'm sorry for that. The falling, जहां से वो decrease होता है, portion of the marginal product of labor curve illustrates, एक law बहुत important law है, वो क्या show करती है? Falling portion क्या show करेगा? एक बहुत important law है जो आप beginning में economics में पढ़ते हैं. That is law of diminishing returns. जी बेटा कहें?
ये वही law of diminishing बोल रहा है.
That is law of diminishing returns, right? Then we come to the stages of production. You can explain it with other examples also. Now, clear? कि कहाँ पे वो increase होता है, कहाँ पे decrease होता है, slope कैसे determine करते हैं 2 points में, और कहाँ पे point of intersection आ जाती है, और वो क्या show करता है. Now we come to the stages of production. Now, in case of stages of production, ये तीनों curves हम एक coordinates में लेते हैं. That is y-axis और x-axis. Y-axis पे हम production show कर देते हैं. X-axis पे हम the land, the units of land used. X-axis पे हम L use कर लेते हैं land, और Y-axis पे product. इस curve को, total product curve को पहले draw कर दें, उसके साथ join कर दें marginal product of labor जो कि 0 से नहीं start होता है, और फिर एवरेज प्रोडक्ट ऑफ लेबर जो कि टोटल प्रोडक्ट ऑफ लेबर के पॉइंट से, और इन अदर वर्ड्स 0 एक्स एक्सिस और द पॉइंट ऑफ इंटरसेक्शन से स्टार्ट होता है. तो आपके पास 3 कर्व्स आ जाते हैं, टोटल प्रोडक्ट, एवरेज प्रोडक्ट एंड मार्जिनल प्रोडक्ट. जहां तक टोटल प्रोडक्ट इंक्रीजिंग ट्रेंड बताता है, और सिंपली वी से जहां पे एवरेज प्रोडक्ट ऑफ लेबर इंटरसेक्ट्स the marginal product of labor, that is the first stage of marginal product of labor. That is the first stage of production. And in this case, it will be the first stage showing the labor. Then from where it increases and starts decreasing, तो वहां पे हमारे पास सेकंड स्टेज ऑफ प्रोडक्शन आ जाता है. और यहां पे हम क्या कहेंगे, सेकंड स्टेज ऑफ प्रोडक्शन ब्रैकेट में लेबर, क्योंकि हम लेबर को ही ले रहे हैं ना. और वो थर्ड स्टेज जो रह जाता है, दैट इज द थर्ड स्टेज ऑफ लेबर. तो इस तरीके से टोटल प्रोडक्ट कर्व, एवरेज प्रोडक्ट ऑफ लेबर एंड मार्जिनल प्रोडक्ट ऑफ लेबर को कंबाइन कर लें तो वो आपको स्टेजेस ऑफ प्रोडक्शन दे देता है. तो स्टेजेस ऑफ प्रोडक्शन आपका फर्स्ट स्टेज आ जाता है लेबर, क्योंकि हम लेबर का एग्जांपल ले रहे हैं. फिर जहां पे वो डिक्रीजिंग ट्रेंड बता देता है, इंक्रीजिंग से डिक्रीजिंग आ जाता है, या जहां पे कॉन्स्टेंसी आती है वो सेकंड स्टेज हो जाता है. और जहां पे फॉलिंग ट्रेंड आ जाता है, जहां से वो कर्व गिरता है, तो वहां पे हमारे पास थर्ड स्टेज आ जाता है. क्लियर? नाउ द नेक्स्ट थिंग विच वी आर गोइंग टू टेक अप, production with two variable inputs. ये in case of one variable input था. When we say with the two variable inputs, we use a word isoquants. We use a word isoquants when we are considering with two variable inputs. Now, where the firm has only two factors of production, वहां पे हम सिर्फ लेबर ले रहे थे. यहां पे टू फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, लेबर एंड कैपिटल हम अज्यूम करते, बोथ ऑफ विच आर वेरिएबल. both of which are variable mean they are not constant, they are changeable, variable. Since all factors are variable, we are dealing with the long run. वहां पे कॉन्स्टेंसी थी तो हम शॉर्ट रन ले रहे थे, यहाँ पे वेरिएबिलिटी आ जाती है तो हम यहाँ पे लॉन्ग रन आते हैं. तो ये बेसिक डिफरेंस है, लॉन्ग रन और शॉर्ट रन विद वन वेरिएबल इनपुट एंड विद द टू वेरिएबल इनपुट. जब टू वेरिएबल इनपुट होता है, वी आर बेसिकली कॉन्सेंट्रेटिंग ऑन द आइसोक्वांस. With one variable input, we are basically concentrating with the average product of labor and the marginal product of labor and the total product of labor. Clear? So in this case here now we are discussing long run. Now you may be asking, what is a isoquant? Isoquant is more or less the same thing as a indifference curve. Now I'll define isoquant technically. Isoquant shows the different combinations of जो two inputs मैंने लिए थे, labor denoted by capital L, capital denoted by capital K, with which the firm can produce a specific quantity of output. To repeat, an isoquant shows the different combinations of labor L, capital K, with which a firm can produce a specific quantity of output. A high, जैसे मैंने आपसे कहा कि ये indifference curve isoquant are more or less the same thing, लेकिन technically they are not the same thing, theoretically they are the same thing. So a higher isoquant refers to greater quantity of output, and the lower one with the which shows us the smaller quantity of output. जैसे indifference curve में हमने कहा था, higher indifference curve gives the higher level of satisfaction, the lower indifference curve gives the lower level of satisfaction. So higher isoquant gives the higher level of output, and the lower isoquant gives the lower level of output. So one variable input basically deals with a short run, two variable input we basically deal with a long run. इसके लिए वही टेबल आप बना लें, आइसोक्वांट 1, आइसोक्वांट 2, आइसोक्वांट 3. तो एक साइड, एक कॉलम में लेबर ले लें, दूसरे कॉलम में कैपिटल ले लें. आइसोक्वांट 2 के लिए भी लेबर ले लें, कैपिटल ले लें. आइसोक्वांट 3 के लिए भी लेबर और कैपिटल. आप कहेंगे कि लेबर और कैपिटल हर वक्त क्यों लेते हैं? हमने यहाँ पे अज्यूम किया था कि द प्रोड्यूसर बेसिकली टेक्स इनटू कंसिडरेशन टू वेरिएबल इनपुट्स, and those two variable inputs are land and labor, capital, labor and capital. तो आप इसके लिए आप टेबल शो कर लें और टेबल को ग्राफिकली शो कर दें, तो वो आपको more or less the indifference curve, लेकिन technically it will not be an indifference curve. Isoquant specifically specifies cardinal measurement of output. isoquant specify cardinal measure of output. For example, isoquant 1 might refer to 60 unit of physical output. Isoquant may refer to 100 unit of output. इसीलिए हम इसको कार्डिनल यूनिट कहते हैं. तो वो पहले आपको ऐसे यू मोर लेस थोड़ा बहुत यू शेप का आ जाता है. पहले इंक्रीज होता है, फिर आस्ता आस्ता गिरता है और फिर नीचे आता है, लेकिन बट इट नेवर टचेस एक्स एक्सिस. ऊपर से आता है, दरमियान में आ जाता है और फिर नीचे की तरफ से ऊपर चला जाता है. तो दैट इज नोन एज एन आइसोक्वांट. टेबल बना ले. टेबल में क्या लेंगे आप? 2 फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, लेबर और कैपिटल. आइसोक्वांट दूसरा बना ले, लेबर एंड कैपिटल. तीसरा ले ले, लेबर एंड कैपिटल. वैल्यू सब ले लें, उसमें डाल दें तो आपको टेबल बन जाएगा. उस टेबल को आप शो कर लें डायग्रामेटिकली, तो वो आपके पास आइसोक्वांट आएगा. अगर आपके पास 3 कॉलम्स आ जाएं तो इट मींस यू विल गेट 3 isoquants. And as I said before, that broadly speaking, more or less the same thing as the indifference curve. But here the basic difference is the cardinal utility. It measures, it specifies the value. While indifference curve में more or less आ जाता है कि आपको ज्यादा सेटिस्फैक्शन मिलती है या कम सेटिस्फैक्शन मिलती है. यहाँ पे आपके नंबर क्वांटिफाई हो जाता है. जो मतलब ये हुआ कि हम यूटिलिटी एनालिसिस की तरफ चले जाते हैं. क्लियर? नाउ वहां पे हम मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ सब्स्टिट्यूशन कह रहे थे, यहां पे हम क्या करेंगे? द मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ टेक्निकल सब्स्टिट्यूशन. व्हाई टेक्निकल? वहां पे हम मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ सब्स्टिट्यूशन, यहां पे मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ टेक्निकल सब्स्टिट्यूशन. तो मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ टेक्निकल सब्स्टिट्यूशन हम इसीलिए करते हैं बिकॉज वी आर सब्स्टिट्यूटिंग वन इनपुट फॉर अनदर. हाउ डू वी डिफाइन इट? The marginal rate of technical substitution of labor and capital. 2 variable थे, labor and capital, denoted by L and K. तो हम इसको कैसे लिखते हैं? MRTS capital में. M marginal, R rate, T technical and S substitution. Marginal rate of technical substitution, that is for labor and capital. कि कितने यूनिट ऑफ लेबर हम गिव अप कर लेंगे, कितने यूनिट ऑफ लेबर कैपिटल हम लेंगे, कितने यूनिट ऑफ कैपिटल हम गिव अप करके कितने यूनिट ऑफ लेबर लेंगे. दैट्स व्हाई वी से मार्जिनल रेट ऑफ टेक्निकल सब्स्टिट्यूशन, सबस्क्रिप्ट में छोटा l और k, refers to the amount of capital that a firm can give up by increasing the amount of labor used by one unit and still remain on the same isoquant. इंडिफरेंस कर्व में क्या आता कि एक यूनिट आप दे दें, दूसरा यूनिट ले लें, लेकिन आप सेम इंडिफरेंस कर्व पे रहेंगे. यहाँ पे वी से that a firm can give up by increasing the amount of labor used by one unit and still remain on the same isoquant. The marginal rate of technical substitution of labor for capital, MRTS, capital में M stands for marginal, R for rate, T for technical, S for substitution, L for labor and K for capital subscript में, is also equal to MP, marginal productivity of labor, divided by marginal productivity of capital, which is technically written as MP subscript L, MP capital में, और subscript L divided by MP capital में subscript K. As the firm moves down an isoquant, the marginal rate of technical substitution of labor for capital shows us a decreasing trend. That is, it shows, or in other words, we say it is decreasing or declining. Now, you may be asking that you are comparing it with the indifference curve or utility analysis. Then what are the basic characteristics of an isoquant? Isoquant basically have the same characteristics as the indifference curve. Indifference curve के 3 characteristics थे. Downward sloping, never intersecting, और तीसरा आप देख लें. So now the characteristic of an isoquant is, number 1, in the relevant range, isoquants are negatively sloped. That is indifference curve downward, isoquant negatively sloped. Number two, isoquants are convex to the origin. Indifference curve का भी हमने कहा था they are convex to the origin. So isoquant are also convex to the origin. Number three, isoquants never cross, or in other words, they never intersect each other. So the three basic characteristics of isoquant are more or less the same as an indifference curve. Number one, for the characteristic of an isoquants, not of an indifference curve, here I'm discussing isoquants. Number one is the relevant range of isoquant are negatively sloped, falling trend बताता है. Number two, isoquants are convex to the origin, मतलब they are moving toward x-axis but never touches x-axis. They are convex to the origin. And two isoquants never cross, means indifference curve में हमने कहा था they do not intersect. So the two isoquants never cross, means they never intersect with each other. Now this is your home task to explain it diagrammatically with the help of an example. Now, similar to the isoquants, we do have another thing, isocosts. Isocosts. What are isocosts? An isocost shows all the different combinations of labor and capital. An isocost shows all the different combinations of labor and capital that a firm can purchase, that the firm can purchase now, can purchase given the total outlay. Total outlay को आप कैसे लिखते हैं? TO capital में. The total outlay of the firm and factor prices. I'll repeat it again. An isocost shows all the different combinations of labor and capital that the firm can purchase given the total outlay of the firm and factor prices. The slope, जैसे मैंने आपको total product curve का slope कहा था, तो the slope of an isocost is given by minus PL minus P capital, L for labor, divided by P subscript K, which means isocost is given by minus PL productivity of labor over the productivity of capital. ठीक है? Or in other words, we say it means the price of labor over the price of X and so on. So the isocost would be equal to minus बाहर माइनस लगा लें, TO total outlay divided by price of capital divided by TO divided by PL, price of capital, price of labor, total output, total outlay. This equals to, आप इसको चेंज कर देंगे, नीचे वाले को ऊपर ले जाएं, ऊपर वाले को नीचे लाएं, क्योंकि आपने अभी साइन वो कर दिया. So it becomes total outlay of over price of K capital times price of labor divided by total outlay. TO दोनों केसेस में क्रॉस हो जाता है, कैंसिल हो जाते हैं, एंड यू आर लेफ्ट विद माइनस, बाहर माइनस का साइन आएगा, प्राइस ऑफ लेबर डिवाइडेड बाय प्राइस ऑफ कैपिटल. क्लियर? और उसके बाद प्रोडक्शन, producer equilibrium. Now producer equilibrium is a point when he maximizes output for his given total outlay. When a producer is in equilibrium, when he maximizes output for his given total outlay, which means MP of labor over price of labor equals MP of capital, margin productivity of capital, over price of capital. Clear? This means that at equilibrium, the marginal product of the last rupee spent on labor is the same as the marginal product of the last rupee spent on capital. Clear? I'll explain it again. Now from this ISO cost, look, when we draw it diagrammatically, it looks more or less like a budget line. Touches x-axis and y-axis because of the prices of x and prices of capital and labor. Now, how does a producer reaches an equilibrium? Why? Because we are basically dealing with a production. So a producer is in equilibrium when he maximizes output for his given total outlay. Technically, it can be written as marginal productivity, MP of labor, L, divided by price of labor equals MP of capital over price of capital. Clear so far? Now, this is enough for today. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, please do ask.
सर ये माइनस साइन हम क्यों पढ़ते थे?
कहाँ पे माइनस साइन? कहाँ पे आपको माइनस साइन मैंने कहा है? हेलो हेलो,
PL डिवाइडेड बाय PK सर, उसमें
बाहर माइनस आता है, फॉर्मूला में गिवन है ये, इसकी डेरिवेशन मैं नहीं करना चाहता। माइनस PK ओवर PL, ठीक है? आपके अंडरलाइन जहां आता है तो वहां से बाहर माइनस का साइन लगा दें। क्लियर? एनी अदर क्वेश्चन?
डेरिवेशन की वजह से आता है ये साइन?
जी जी बेटा, बिल्कुल उसकी वजह से आता है। एनी अदर क्वेश्चन? Any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you, beta. Thank you. This is enough for today. Next time, I'll take up a new topic.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much,
Allah
beta.
Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, beta. Allah Hafiz.